My name is Russell Smith. I'm a Director of Parity Projects, and for this evening and for the next few months, a Director of Retrofitworks. And I'm going to introduce Retrofitworks to you. Specifically, I'm introducing to you the opportunity to join as a member. Retrofitworks has been in existence for a little while now. It launched on April the 2nd, 2013, and became a cooperative in July of last year. And I'm just going to explain a bit to you about why it came into existence, what it's all about, and why it should be of interest to your various organisations here. It's worth telling you we have tried to get the air conditioning turned on, so shortly, hopefully, you'll all be cooling down a little. Welcome to Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. I'm really excited to be here, actually, because it's not only is it in the heart of Haringey, but there's some really cool things that this club's doing for the community as well, and I think that's one of the reasons why Retrofitworks is coming into existence. We're about trying to get the community moving, as well as the supply chain for doing retrofit moving as well. So those two things combined. I'm going to introduce the speakers you're going to hear from today. A bit about me, first of all. I run a small company, and we've been working as specialising in the retrofit of domestic buildings for nearly 9 years now. And like others in the room who've worked in this field, we're working in a market that still doesn't really exist. In spite of what politicians will tell you, it's from central government, there is no market. It's not a market that you might expect. If I turned up today and said, I'm a milkman, you'd know what you're going to buy from me, you'd know roughly what you'd expect to pay, and whether anyone's going to give you a grant to buy some milk off me. If you want to do retrofit, the chances are you'd be as confused as hell within 10 seconds of anyone trying to explain to you what it is you can buy and whether you can get a grant for it or not. As far as I'm concerned, that's not a market. So my experience has been to try and make sense of all that stuff on behalf of homeowners and councils and local authorities and social landlords. And where I come from with this event that we're trying to put on tonight is to say there is another answer to all this, and we can work collaboratively to do that. After me, you're going to hear from Councillor Joe Goldberg. Joe is the Cabinet member for Economic Development, Social Inclusion and Sustainability. That's quite an unusual mix of things, and I think you'll find that the reason Haringey have got quite down the line with all this kind of stuff is simply because of the vision that kind of position has got. Paul Reeve is going to follow Joe. Paul is the Director of Business Services at the Electrical Contractors Association, and it covers a broad range of membership services on behalf of that association, interacting with a broad range of stakeholders for the ECO, which is why it's so important that Paul is a Director of Retrofitworks, from my perspective at least anyway, because he brings a whole breadth of experience there, including things like commercial and technical background, health and safety, sustainability and energy solutions. Then we'll hear from Hugh Jones, who's the CEO of the North London Chamber of Commerce. He's been representing North London businesses for 15 years now. If he doesn't know what they need, then nobody does. So from my perspective, it's really important for him to be able to tell us what he thinks about this and be honest, and how North London businesses can then interact with this new co-op. So I'm going to spend literally 10 minutes or so telling you about how we have reached this important milestone today, and what makes Retrofitworks a watershed development in the retrofit market. We spent pretty much 3 years to the week getting to this point. And when I told people in the office this on Monday when I was getting this speech ready, they couldn't quite believe it. But the reason is that we've got a whole bunch of people in the supply chain that have had to sort of align with each other to agree that this is a way to go forward. So I'm not standing up here as some bloke that's come up with a great idea and said we should all sign up to it. Every step of the way, and it started off with the trade associations and professional institutions that we've been aligned with, is really to sort of say, well, do we agree that this is an issue? Yes, okay, right, I'm going to come up with some ideas, have another meeting. These are my ideas. That one's rubbish, that one's good. Okay, and so on. And those meetings have gradually got bigger and bigger to the point that we've ended up, over the 3 years, a meeting with 450 individual organisations, whether they be supply chain, whether they be local authority, whether they be community groups. So we've come up with a model that really hopes to deliver retrofit at scale. And that is the one thing that you'll find everyone is really grappling with at the moment. It matches up property owners and community groups that represent property owners with local approved retrofit professionals and trades. It's designed to work beyond industry silos. It's all very well trying to get groups of like-minded trades and like-skilled trades together, but what we're trying to do is get cross-industry groupings together to try and solve individual local level problems. So the idea notionally there is it will be driven locally. The governance is local, but there will be a central process and tools that will be available, and I'll explain what they are, so that actually this can go much more widely than just a local grouping and a local interest set. So it's inherently scalable, capable of delivering solutions nationwide, whilst being something that's very tangible economically and socially. So you can actually start to measure the benefits of those things. From the market research that we've done over the last few years, with the help of Haringey Council, we're starting to understand now what is at the heart of the stagnation of the retrofit market, if you like. And it's just one word, it's trust. Okay? Whose advice do we trust? Do we trust that the price we're being offered is the right price? Do we trust that we're actually being offered all the grants that are genuinely available? Do we trust that this person that we've invited into our home is going to do a good job? Do we trust that actually all the things that we want to do in our home, it might be more than one thing, they actually all fit together? And that's actually quite an important thing. For those of you who know a bit more about the retrofit and you've been steeped in it, you'll know that things could be chucked at a building, but they may not actually complement one another. Now, if we're going to scale, we've got to get that right, because some of those things could be at the detriment to the building and the health of the occupant. But that trust needs to be established within the supply chain as well. It's not just about homeowners, it's about the supply chain trusting something as well. When we start talking scale, generally we usually end up talking about something that's top down. Larger organisations or frameworks or something saying to a supply chain, here's our framework, are you going to sign up or not? This is very different. We want to make sure that it's very transparent, that if there is a subcontract, you know about it. Because every time there is a subcontract, there's a tier of profit, and that profit ends up with the homeowner. Moreover, the time invested in gaining access to a supply chain by a small company needs to be judged against the likelihood of whether that scheme will be alive in 2 weeks' time or not. It might take 2 weeks to get into that scheme, with all the forms you might have to fill out. In order for an improved model to be wholly transparent and for it to truly react to not only what the customers want, it's got to be in harmony with what the supply chain genuinely wants to supply, rather than some assumptions about what the supply chain ought to be doing. So that supply chain needs to be owned by both, in my view. And certainly that's how these 450 organisations have panned out with their input into this new organisation as well. They want a supply chain that they can trust and rely on, and also to make sure that those that are in that supply chain can progress over time. You might be coming on day one, but we want an organisation that can help people to grow as an organisation. They can mature over time as well. So it addresses many critical concerns. It's taken 3 years to get here. So why do we need a launch event to attract members if everyone thinks it's wonderful? Well, I want to point out that what we've built is actually something that is actually pretty unique and actually will require a slightly different mindset for people to properly use it to its full potential. What we've created, in effect, is a tool that every person in the retrofit market, at any point in the supply chain, no matter how high up or low down they think they are, they can use that tool for the benefit of their organisation. So, save for the entry requirements, which we are going to be quite strict on, and I'll explain more about that shortly, there is no strict or prescriptive routine for how to use this cooperative. And those of you who know a bit about the Green Deal know that that's actually pretty prescriptive, and the way that you need to go through it. And anyone's involved in eco, here's the pile of forms you need to fill out in order to get the money that you may have thought you were going to get at the start of the process, but now it's not there anymore. I know that probably sounds like a lot of words in a funny order, but actually for those of you working in that field, it makes complete sense and it's very depressing. Now, trade associations can set standards for their members and lobby for better industry prospects, but they can't necessarily go out and grab a client and arrange a contract for their members. Retrofitworks can do that. Installers trained to PAS 2030 have shown that they've got processes to deliver the Green Deal, but that doesn't mean to say that they'll be discoverable by clients. Now, Retrofitworks can do that. Community groups can extol the virtues of retrofit benefits to their heart's content, to churchgoers, to their environmentalists, to those in fuel poverty, to the elderly and the vulnerable, but Retrofitworks can help them do that with a little bit more knowledge behind it, can train them up on how to explain some of that stuff. We need them as much as they need us. Local authorities aiming to build a local retrofit scheme can aim to build a local economy, but end up forcing being forced to tender using larger corporations due to the procurement rules that they've got. By joining Retrofitworks, they can immediately acquire a supply chain. They own the supply chain. So what we're attempting to do is not only just new tools and relationships, but effectively we're trying to build a trusted culture within our industry. This can only be done in a thoroughly and assuredly deliberate process. We're bringing everyone along with us at the same time. And that's why it's taken 3 years. And of course, timing is everything. Everyone knows about the difference between the VHS and the Betamax video. But the issue we've got here is actually, timing is actually pretty difficult in this market, because 1 minute you've got some grant funding, next minute you haven't. But one thing I'm pleased to be able to say today is that we are part of a consortium of preferred suppliers to the Green Deal Communities project that's been awarded in North London, being led by Haringey Council, which is making available £6.5 million worth of money to retrofit homes in North London. And members of this cooperative, if you choose to sign up, will be part of that team that can deliver that amount of work within North London. So that's a huge market, and that's right on the doorstep. So the reason we care so much about the retrofit market is for 2 key reasons. Firstly, by renovating a house, you're solving a whole load of issues. I've just been talking to Layla here about some of the things that she thinks can be solved in homes just by having a nice home for people to live in. And they're not any of the ones I've got listed down on my list here. Firstly, it's about getting the formula right to seriously impact our economy. Not first, they're not in a particular order, this is my list, okay? Our work in Haringey has shown that local authority committing to this kind of approach can achieve a £200 return for every £1 they invest. Now that sounds like a really big number, okay? But genuinely, by investing that money in that market, you're putting money in the people's pockets that do the work, but actually you're creating money because you're reducing people's bills. It's a multiplier effect, and I would challenge anyone to find anything else out there in the market anywhere that has that multiplier effect for every pound invested. Secondly, think of the social impact. And I'm going to home in on indoor air quality here, for instance, okay? Health is shown to improve absolutely dramatically when an adequately heated house comes around. A reduction in injuries to the elderly simply because they've got a warmer home to live in, statistically proven. Work at UCL, University College London, has shown a 2,000-fold increase in the amount of dust mites in a home if you move from 21 degrees C to 24 degrees C in a house. 2,000-fold. So as a professional, I know that extra ventilation in a home, if you're going to be draft-proofing that home, is absolutely essential. Do you think the rest of the industry knows that? Well, I've been talking about it for 9 years. You'd hope somebody would have listened by now. But we need to put practices in place to make sure that is the norm. It's been proven by a recent study that properties outside of London admittedly do go up in value when the EPC rating goes up. In some cases up to 24% in the colder parts of the UK. Okay? That's a real number. That's a real bottom line figure for when you get to sell your property once you've done this stuff. But let's look at it also from a local level and a regional level. Our modelling that we did with Haringey Council has shown that potential for energy savings are actually at a massive scale, providing this model actually does generate demand, and that's obviously the key issue for us. Conservatively, we believe that in Haringey Council alone, there will be £4 million of accumulated savings after the end of the 10th year of this cooperative being launched. Now, we're dealing with another 5 boroughs on top of this with the Green Deal Communities Fund here. That's an enormous amount of money in people's pockets. And finally, of course, but by no means least, what we're talking about here is carbon dioxide emissions being reduced and the risk in our environment. And my own personal perspective, we're seeing a massive change in the climate right now. We can also, on top of that, start to see a reduction in the pressure on our energy networks. And we've all seen the prevalence now of community energy generation and the cooperatives that are coming in around that as well. There's no reason why this kind of cooperative, which is about reducing the need for energy in the first place, couldn't complement that energy and the community energy that's going into generating that kind of new model as well. So it's a big untapped opportunity as well. With so many things left to try, we always seem to home in on the next way that we're going to get hold of money to pay for stuff. But this is an opportunity to generate something that's a little bit more creative. Try things that will hopefully tackle what we believe is our biggest bugbear. And that's the completely untapped market for regular renovation that's going on right now. 2% of all homes in the UK are renovated every year. How many of them do you think actually, I really ought to be tackling my energy consumption at the same time? How many of them? If we tackled every one of those 2% of homes, we would be getting to a point where we'd end up virtually every home renovated by 2050, and that's the target our government has signed up to reduce its carbon emissions by 80%. To add to that, I'd also like to quote Liz Mail, who's the chairman of Trustmark, in their relaunch in April, saying that incompetent tradesmen cost homeowners £1.9 billion a year. That's 5 times more than the insurance claims that pay for domestic burglary. So that's bad workmen prevalent in the marketplace doing bad work. So what we're saying to you here is a cooperative like this, which has high entry standards, can actually start to tackle things on a number of different levels as well. And we're hoping that things like insurance companies will be able to get behind us on that front. So why hasn't it taken off? Why hasn't this market taken off? If you spend some time asking to people why not, it's because of a few things. The interest rate for the loan is too high. We've all heard that. It's too complicated. I don't get it. Can't find an advisor or a builder that knows what I want to do. I don't believe it will save me that much. That's a failure of the person giving the advice in the first place. I can't be bothered. Hassle. All of these concerns, unfortunately, would simply be confirmed if you went and talked to your regular builder or electrician or plumber in the marketplace, because they agree. So that conversation has stopped straight away. So this market generally needs to be a two-pronged attack. It's the community groups, it's the homeowners understanding what needs to be done, and it's the supply chain wanting to get on with it, pull the two together. If the community groups can work with their constituents, if you like, to generate leads, I can tell you the supply chain will come. You don't have to do much more than that. Show a supply chain, a bunch of customers, and they'll get their act together and they'll want to serve them. So in Retrofitworks, we've created an organisation which brings together in one place those things. But I like to think the eureka moment really for us wasn't that this is just a new mechanism, it's got some new gizmos in it. It's the fact that we can translate whatever the market wants into whatever the market can supply. And I know a few of you here would have been in workshops over the last few years that we've been talking about how we can solve this retrofit problem. And I bet what you've been talking about is things like, oh, we need this particular kind of finance, or wouldn't it be good if we had some better energy assessments, or do we all really have to procure one big company? Wouldn't it be nice to get some small firms involved? Well, actually, I think it's much simpler than that. If you can get the conversation right with the homeowner in the first place, then I think this is where we need to be. That conversation is formed of 3 things. The first one is, what do I do? What measures suit this home and the way I live in it? The second conversation is, how can I pay for it? The third one is, well, who's going to do it? If you can have, confidently, a conversation that includes those 3 things, first time around, you've got a householder. The way the market works at the moment is you generally have to get one person to have one of those conversations and then introduce you to someone else who has another conversation about another thing. Before long, you've had 8 different people in your home, it's taken 12 weeks, and you've ended up with a customer that really just doesn't want to do it anymore. And by the way, that grant's probably not in existence anymore. So, making sense of all that is to try and get us to the point where we can have the fewest conversations possible. And we've developed the tools and the framework to enable that conversation to happen first time around with a homeowner in their home straight away. And it does boil down to those conversations, and we're going to have to end up with training quite a few of our members on that, because we're not great at conversations, especially some of the builders I work with. One of the things I do every day is sit down with my builders and translate with, and they're all English, with English customers, and there's a translation that's required there. So we all have to appreciate that we've got that deficiency and work together to get that right. So the key components of this organisation, and I know I'm behind time, but I sort of don't care. We want householders to have guided access to this market. We want to help build this model. We want to power communities. So we've generated a membership of the cooperative called the Advocate Member. So there's 2 types of member for this cooperative. The Advocate Member, the organisation, the people out there that want to promote the idea that retrofit will be a good thing for these people to do, okay? And there's a framework for them people. We will train them up to be able to explain what that means. They can join. They can own a share of this cooperative, and they can get a share of the profits that this cooperative makes by return of that as well. Now, you could take that as a profit, and with some of the community groups we've been working with over the last few years, think that's a bit vulgar. Having money passed to them because they pass leads in is a bit vulgar. That's fine. We'll come and fix your roof for you. That's fine. However you want that return is fine. We want all of these parties to trust the model. So we have a governance in place which is completely transparent. All of the members are entitled to be part of the framework that feeds back into the board that helps them make decisions. On the board itself, we've got key industry reps. We've got Paul here and Paul over there. You don't have to be Paul to be on the board. They represent trade associations. We're going to be inviting members of local authorities to come onto the board. And whenever we go through a critical stage, we'll invite other people that are expert at that critical stage to come onto the board as well. We want advocate members to be motivated, so that's the notion behind the profit, or however they want to take it. And importantly, there's this finder's fees available for individual things that happen as well. The profit is shared according to how many leads you bring in, not simply per head as well. So there's quite a good opportunity there to really generate some funds for local community groups. We want to set the bar high for the practitioner members of this cooperative to join. We have a set of entry requirements and we have some membership principles. And you've got the membership principles booklet in your hand there. It's taken quite a long time to come up with this stuff because I can assure you this is based on an enormous spreadsheet. Now, I'm an engineer. I like spreadsheets. But these membership principles are aligned with every other major trade association and professional institution that exists in the country. There'll be a few off that we've not included and they might be a bit upset, but that's tough. The issue here is if you are a member of a trade association or professional institution or you have competence in a certain area, you are deemed to be a member of this organisation by virtue of those facts already. And we would just ask you to prove certain things that you've not been able to prove for your existing organisation. So it's inclusive and it's simple to join on that basis. We've aligned with PAS 91, which is the standard for pre-qualification questionnaires, which should keep local authorities happy. We've aligned with PAS 2030, the Green Deal Code of Conduct, microgeneration certification scheme, and we're going to be a member of Trustmark before long as well. So, you know, it is the industry standard. We want to foster competition as well. This isn't a cartel. Within the framework we're setting up, the members are offering prices to homeowners and they are competing on price. So we've got the bar high for quality and we've got the bar high for price as well. We're making sure people are competing to keep the price down. We also want to make sure that we're delivering a smooth pricing process and the delivery service has been achieved through that as well. And on that basis, we're working with a number of partners here. National Schedule of Rates Management here, these guys, they're in the room. Where's David? Can you give us a wave? These guys have worked for years on putting together schedules of rates that we can work with electronically through the system that Neil's sitting behind him there from VRM Technology is put together in order to make sure that we've actually got a procurement framework for individual members that can hook up with homeowners here. And I am going to attempt, by the power of wonder, to give you, I'm going to talk over what you're seeing here. This is a demonstration of the software that we've developed. It's just going to be going through as a sort of video. Some of you will get access to this as installers. Homeowners get access to this as well. They will be able to see how their job is progressing. They will be able to log on and say, okay, even if they're at work, this is how far my job has gone. Photos uploaded by the contractor to show them what's been done that day. And by the way, if there's a contract that says an internal wall insulation contractor must take photos of that insulation before they put the plasterboard up so we can actually see it's done properly, that has to be uploaded to this system. And the householder can see it, the technical retrofit officer or the client who's paying for this can get to see all that evidence as well. Okay? So if we want trust in the marketplace, this is what it's about. And one of the great things about the system is that what you're able to see is contractors who really don't know how to price a job up, and there's plenty of them. This sort of helps them do that as well. So one of my bugbears is I have to usually sit up 10 o'clock at the night after I've done a full day's work to help price stuff up for householders because I've got no other time to do it. Well, our process with this particular system is that contractors are pre-priced work against the schedule of rates that David's provided using Neil's software. So a homeowner comes along with their agent, with a coordinator that's helped them do that work, and all you have to do is put in the dimensions of that job, and the price pops up. And you see 3 prices for contractors that are within your local area before you've ever even met any of them. This really gets us to the point of having that conversation that I told you about very quickly. There's an 8-minute version. If you want to see it afterwards, Neil's at the back there, he'll take you through it. More than happy for you to ask as many questions as you like. I think this is really cool. Okay, so the bottom line is we've got a whole load of components here. And we're trying to get to a point where actually this is a process that you don't have to worry about what goes in the background. It's like having an iPhone. It's all really simple, isn't it? But open that up and I can assure you will not know what's going on. We've sorted all that stuff out in the background. The process is simple. No matter where you come from here, you might have a community group. You can log on to the system. You can put your client details in. You can track how we're treating your client. So, the call to action. Up to now, we've had a really good, reliable group of associate members. So the only membership that's been available to the cooperative at this stage has been associate membership. An associate member is not somebody who votes, not somebody who gets any profit from it, can't be on the board. These are people that support the thing. And we've got over 70 organisations who are associate members. Now they get a chance to become a full member. So we've got these two membership categories I mentioned. We've got the practitioner member and we've got the advocate member. Let me give an example of how particular organisations can actually use this organisation. So a regular builder, for instance, might be out there carrying out building renovations on a regular basis right now, extensions, redecoration, etc. If you join Retrofitworks, you can work with the advisors that we're employing centrally with the cooperative to help advise the homeowner of what things they could do to upgrade their home at that time. We can get everything in place to make sure that client has actually got all of the barriers that they would normally see in front of them taken out of the way, including conversations about finance, given that we have a Consumer Credit Act licence to do that stuff on behalf of the members. And of course, that regular builder has got access to the grants. They've been seen to do the right thing by their client. They've got more work. The householder hopefully has got a good deal on the back of it, hopefully with a grant to pay for quite a lot of the work. On that basis as well, we're very pleased to partner with Hugh. Hugh's going to explain a bit about the ERDF funded programme that's going to be launched next week, called Retrofit London, which will actually pay for people in small companies to get past 2030 accredited to be able to access this market. So we need this scheme to get some of these small guys on board. If you're a specialist insulator, you'll be seeking subcontractors to help do the things like downpipes on external wall insulation, to lift those floorboards and put them back down again because you want to put the insulation in, that kind of stuff. You can go onto the system, you can find a subcontractor, you can get a good price from them, and you can manage their process through the system as well. Energy assessors will, of course, want to be found, and our job portal will help them be found. In fact, we've set up a system here whereby a call centre that might be administered by a local authority, you can actually book an assessor through our system. You can just go straight onto it, book their diary space, and they're on the job. Architects are looking for help to find good, local, reliable, approved specialists, and they can act as the, if you like, the client through this system as well. Confused householders can just give us a call. We can deal with them direct, and we can act as impartial advisors, introducing them to the supply chain, which is the membership of the cooperative. So, the key thing, I think, from my point of view, there's a few people around here with badges on, Retrofitworks logo on. They're the associate members, a few members of staff as well. Ask them how they're going to get involved. The reason I wanted to bring people here a little bit earlier was not just to get you a little bit oiled, but so you can all have the chance to get to know each other, because this is going to be about local networks and be able to get these conversations going. But if you want to do regular work for a client, you don't need to get a grant. You don't need to find anybody else to do that work for you. You don't need the co-op. I'm not pretending this is the silver bullet that needs to be involved in every single retrofit job there is out there, because it's not true. It needs to help in those jobs where it genuinely needs a nudge, needs a bit of exercise, it just needs a bit of energy to get the thing moving. And of course, there's the rather large non-domestic retrofit sector out there as well. We're looking to try and get involved in the non-domestic sector at the start of 2015. I know there are some members that have joined the co-op this far specifically so they can be a member, so they can start getting into that sector. All we need to do is get those schedules of rates into our system so that we can start getting people choosing that work. So, how to join? In the first instance, everyone needs to become an associate member, and that costs you 50 quid. From that point, we know you're serious, and we'll guide you through the rest of the process, whether you want to become a practitioner member or an advocate member. A practitioner member costs £400, and that's for all trades and professions. Obviously, we'll take off the 50 quid you've just spent to become an associate member. For energy assessors, we'll only charge you £100, given that the value of the work that you do monetarily is a lot lower. There's no annual fee. You join forever. But one thing we will say is you've got to do at least £10,000 worth of work a year through the cooperative Otherwise, if you're not going to do that sort of value of the work, there's no point in joining the co-op. And we've got to administer you. If you're not going to do the work, we're not bothered about you being a member. Be an associate member. It costs 50 quid, and it doesn't cost us, it's not as much hassle for us to look after you. Okay? And I think that's fair enough. One thing I'd like to announce today as well, that we do have 25 free places per borough that's part of the Green Deal Communities project. You have to pay the £50 to be an associate member first, but we'll go through the membership process, we'll onboard you, and the rest of it is free. Associate members, sorry, I beg your pardon, advocate members, there's no fee at all. We need you. We need you to go out there and start promoting the notion that retrofit is a good thing to do, and we've got a good supply chain. That won't stay forever, so take it while it's available. So, hopefully that gives you a really good background to this. One thing I would say, that this is really key, this is genuinely about empowering the community to do this stuff themselves, okay? This isn't a silver bullet. It's not meant to help every single member of the community. My wife would much rather us get British Gas in, get everything sorted, and she could pick up the phone and give them a right good earful if things don't work out. That's fine. That's fine. I don't agree with her, but that's fine. The issue here is we need a market that every homeowner can sort of relate their position to, and I think this cooperative can do that. But it needs you guys to do the work now. We've set the framework up, we've got the software, we're going to go out there, we're going to try and train people up to do their thing. But we can't do it for you. This cooperative is here for you to use as you would wish.